The courtroom looked calm at first. The cameras were already rolling. The audience was seated. The lights were bright, and on the surface, this looked like just another ordinary small claims case, a parking dispute. One neighbor against another. Something simple, something small, something that should have been solved with one conversation in an apartment hallway. But what happened inside that courtroom would turn a simple parking argument into one of the most shocking moments anyone had ever witnessed. Because this case was not really about a parking spot. It was about respect. It was about arrogance. It was about a woman who believed her comfort mattered more than another person's pain. And it was about a 78-year-old war veteran who had spent his life avoiding attention, only to be dragged into court because someone decided his dignity did not matter. Robert Henderson sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, his hands rested on a simple folder. Inside that folder were documents, letters, medical records, and proof that the parking space in question legally belonged to him. But Robert did not look angry. He did not look dramatic. He looked tired. He was the kind of man who carried pain silently. The kind of man who had seen things in life that most people could never imagine, yet still spoke with kindness. His posture was straight, but when he had entered the courtroom, everyone noticed the limp. It was not a small limp. It was the kind of limp that came from old injuries, deep injuries, the kind that never fully heal, even after decades. Robert Henderson had served in Vietnam. He had been a combat medic. He had pulled wounded soldiers from danger while bullets flew around him. He had risked his own life for men who might not have survived without him. And during one mission, while trying to save another soldier, Robert had been badly injured. Shrapnel tore through his leg. That injury stayed with him for the rest of his life. Even now, more than 50 years later, walking long distances caused him serious pain. That was why his apartment building had assigned him a parking spot close to the entrance. A handicapped parking spot, a legal spot, a spot connected to his apartment, a spot he needed, not because he wanted special treatment, but because his body carried the cost of service. Across from him sat Karen Mitchell. Karen looked completely different. She sat with confidence, almost with impatience. Her clothes were expensive. Her bag was carefully placed beside her. Her papers were organized in a neat leather folder. Everything about her body language said that she believed she was the important person in the room. She had already sighed several times before the case even began. She had checked her phone. She had looked around like the entire courtroom was wasting her time. And when she passed Robert earlier, she did not greet him. She did not look at him. She did not even acknowledge him like a human being. Judge Judy noticed that. Judge Judy always noticed. After thousands of cases, she could read people within seconds. She knew when someone was nervous. She knew when someone was honest. She knew when someone was trying to perform. And Karen Mitchell was performing before she even opened her mouth. Judge Judy looked down at the file, then looked back up. "Ms. Mitchell," she said, "you are suing Mr. Henderson for $5,000. Tell me why." Karen immediately leaned forward. It was as if she had been waiting for her moment. "Your Honor," she began, in a polished voice. "This man has made my life unbearable for the past 6 months. He has harassed me constantly over a parking spot. He knocks on my door. He leaves notes on my windshield. He complains to management. He has created a hostile living environment, and because of him, I have suffered emotional distress." Robert did not interrupt. He did not shake his head. He just sat there quietly. Karen continued. She said she had therapy bills. She said she had stress headaches. She said she had messages from friends proving how anxious and upset she had been. She carefully placed papers on the table, one after another, as if she were presenting powerful evidence. But Judge Judy's face did not change. She listened, then she asked one question. "Ms. Mitchell, you keep using the word harassment. What exactly did Mr. Henderson do?" Karen answered quickly. "He knocked on my door when I parked there. He left notes on my car. He complained to the building manager. It was constant." Judge Judy leaned back. "When you parked where?" Karen paused for a second. "In the parking spot." "Which parking spot?" "The one near the entrance." Judge Judy looked at the file again. "The parking spot assigned to apartment 4B. Karen's face tightened slightly. "Yes, technically." That word caught Judge Judy's attention. Technically. Judge Judy looked up. "Technically?" Karen shifted in her chair. "Well, yes, his apartment number is on the sign, but it is still a community parking area. I pay rent there too. Sometimes I have groceries, sometimes it rains. Sometimes I need the closer space. The audience stayed silent, but the discomfort in the room began to grow. Judge Judy asked, "So you parked in a space assigned to Mr. Henderson's apartment, and when he asked you not to, you considered that harassment?" Karen tried to soften it. "No, Your Honor. It was not just asking, it was the constant attitude. He acted like he owned it." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. "He does own the right to use it if it is assigned to his apartment." Karen waved her hand dismissively. "I just don't think someone should get special treatment just because they're old." That sentence landed badly. Even the air seemed to change. Robert looked down at his hands. Judge Judy looked at Karen for a long moment. Then she turned to Robert. "Mr. Henderson, tell me your side." Robert's voice was soft. "Your Honor, I don't want to make a big issue out of this. The spot is assigned to my apartment. I have the lease agreement, the handicapped placard, and a doctor's letter. I only asked Ms. Mitchell to stop parking there because walking from the far lot is very painful for me." He opened his folder carefully and handed over the papers. He explained that parking spot number 12 was connected to apartment 4B. He explained that the spot was close to the entrance because he had mobility problems. He explained that Karen had taken the spot many times, even after the building manager told her to stop. And then he said something that made the room even quieter. "Sometimes I would come home from my VA medical appointments and find her car there. Then I had to park far away. By the time I reached my apartment, my leg would be hurting badly." Judge Judy's tone softened. "Mr. Henderson, what happened to your leg?" Robert hesitated. He clearly did not want to talk about it. "It was an old injury, Your Honor." "Judge." Judy leaned forward slightly. "What kind of injury?" Robert looked uncomfortable. "I don't want to make this about me." Judge Judy's voice became firm but respectful. "I will decide what is relevant. Tell me what happened." Robert took a breath. He explained that he had served in Vietnam as a combat medic. His platoon had come under heavy fire. Several men were wounded and trapped in an exposed area. Robert moved forward to help them. He dragged 2 soldiers to safety, then he went back for a third. That soldier was wounded and unable to move. As Robert reached him, a grenade landed nearby. Robert had only seconds to react. So he threw himself over the wounded soldier to shield him from the blast. The explosion tore through Robert's leg. The room was silent. Everyone was listening. Even the camera operators seemed frozen. Robert continued, not with pride, but with humility. He said he spent months in military hospitals. He said the doctors thought about amputating his leg. He said he fought to keep it, and even after all of that, he returned to service because the men he served with were still there. Then suddenly, Karen interrupted. "Oh God," she said, rolling her eyes. "Here we go with the war stories again." The entire courtroom froze. Robert stopped talking. The audience stared at Karen. Even Judge Judy did not move for a second. Karen kept going, completely unaware of how bad she sounded. "Your Honor, he does this all the time. He uses this veteran thing to get sympathy. Everyone has made sacrifices. Some people worked real jobs and built careers instead of expecting everyone to worship them for something that happened 50 years ago." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. Robert sat still. His face remained calm, but his eyes changed. That kind of pain was not from his leg. It was from being disrespected by someone who had no idea what he had given. Judge Judy slowly turned her head toward Karen. She did not scream. She did not slam the gavel. She simply stared. Her expression was cold, sharp, disgusted. It was the kind of look that could make a guilty person regret every word they had spoken. Karen still did not understand. She sat there as if she had made a good point. Judge Judy's voice was quiet when she finally spoke. "Mrs. Mitchell, did you just interrupt this man while he was describing how he was wounded, saving another soldier's life?" Karen opened her mouth. "Yes, Your Honor, because I think we need to focus on the actual case, which is about stop talking." The words cut through the courtroom. Karen froze. Judge Judy leaned forward. "Stop talking right now. Because every time you open your mouth, you make this worse for yourself." Karen's face began to change. For the first time, her confidence cracked. Judge Judy turned back to Robert. "Mr. Henderson, please continue." Robert shook his head gently. "Your Honor, I don't need to go into more detail. I only want the parking space left available so I can get to my apartment." Judge Judy looked at him with respect. "You have the right to explain why that space matters." Robert nodded. He explained again, simply and clearly, that the closer spot was medically necessary. On cold days and rainy days, the old injury became worse. Walking too far caused pain that sometimes lasted for hours. He handed Judge Judy a letter from his VA doctor. Judge Judy read it carefully. Then she picked up another folder from her desk. Karen noticed it now. Her face changed. Judge Judy looked at her. "Mrs. Mitchell, while we are discussing harassment, I think we should talk about your history in this apartment building." Karen immediately tried to speak. "Your Honor, I don't see what that has to do with." Judge Judy cut her off. "I told you to stop talking." Karen went silent. Judge Judy opened the folder. "This is not the first time you have accused a neighbor of harassment, is it?" Karen's face went pale. Judge Judy continued. She explained that Karen had filed several complaints and lawsuits against other residents. One was against an elderly woman who Karen claimed made too much noise, even though building records showed the woman was hearing impaired and rarely left her apartment. Another was against a young couple because their baby cried. Another was against a maintenance worker who asked Karen to stop propping open the building's security door. The pattern was clear. Karen accused people of harassment whenever they refused to let her do whatever she wanted. Judge Judy read from the building manager's statement. The manager said Karen had created problems for multiple residents, especially elderly tenants and people she believed would not fight back. Judge Judy looked directly at Karen. "You did not choose Mr. Henderson by accident. You targeted him because you thought he was old, quiet, and easy to intimidate." Karen's hands began shaking. Judge Judy continued. "You thought that if you made enough trouble, he would give up a parking spot that legally belonged to him. And when he did not, you sued him for $5,000. The courtroom was completely silent. Karen looked down, but Judge Judy was still not finished. She turned to Karen's evidence. "Now let's talk about your emotional distress." Karen had submitted therapy bills. She had claimed Robert caused her anxiety, stress, and headaches, but Judge Judy had done her homework. She pulled out printed screenshots from Karen's social media. During the same time Karen claimed she was suffering because of Robert. She had been posting vacation pictures, spa photos, dinner parties, and captions about how relaxed and happy she was. Then Judge Judy read another post. Karen had complained online about the old man in 4B who thought he was special because he was a veteran. The courtroom reacted immediately. People gasped. Some shook their heads. Karen looked as if she wanted to disappear. She tried to speak. "Your Honor, I can explain." Judge Judy raised her hand. "No, there is nothing to explain." Then Judge Judy delivered the truth plainly. Karen had parked in a space that was not hers. She had ignored requests to stop. She had caused pain and stress to a disabled veteran. Then she had come into court and tried to present herself as the victim. And worst of all, she had mocked a man's military service while sitting only a few feet away from him. Judge Judy's voice became harder. "You filed a baseless lawsuit. You submitted questionable evidence. You disrespected a man who sacrificed his body in service to this country. And you did all of that because you wanted a parking spot that did not belong to you." Karen began crying. But the tears did not change anything. Judge Judy gave her ruling. Karen's case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning she could never bring that same claim again. Then Judge Judy ordered Karen to pay Robert $5,000 for the trouble, stress, and damage caused by the lawsuit. She ordered Karen never to park in Robert's assigned spot again. She ordered her not to contact him directly or indirectly, and she stated that the record would be sent to the building management for review. The gavel came down, but Judge Judy was not finished. She turned to Robert. Her voice softened. "Mr. Henderson, thank you for your service. I am sorry that you had to come into this courtroom just to receive the basic respect you should have been given from the beginning." Robert slowly stood. His eyes were wet, but his dignity remained. "Thank you, Your Honor," he said. "I just wanted to park near my apartment and live in peace." Judge Judy nodded. "And you have earned that right." Karen was led out of the courtroom in tears. The audience watched quietly, but their faces said everything. They had seen arrogance exposed. They had seen lies fall apart. They had seen a quiet old veteran stand with more dignity than the person who tried to humiliate him. As Robert walked out, several people in the audience stood. Some were veterans themselves. One by one, they showed him respect. Robert did not ask for applause. He did not ask for sympathy. But in that moment, the courtroom understood who he was. Not just an old man, not just a tenant in apartment 4B, not just someone fighting over a parking spot. He was a man who had given part of his body, part of his youth, and part of his peace for others. And all he asked for in return was a little space near his front door. That day, Judge Judy made something clear. Respect is not optional. Kindness is not weakness. And when entitlement walks into a courtroom thinking it can bully the truth, it should be ready for consequences. Because sometimes justice is not loud. Sometimes justice is a quiet veteran with a folder of documents. Sometimes justice is a judge who sees through every lie. And sometimes justice begins with one simple truth. A parking spot may look small to some people, but dignity is never small.